As we all know, Goku and his brother Raditz both managed to survive the destruction of planet Vegeta. Goku was saved by his father's desire to save something for once, while Raditz was paired with Prince Vegeta, who refused to follow the order to return to their homeworld before it was destroyed. However, an interesting question presents itself. What if Raditz wasn't the older brother of Goku, but instead the pair were fraternal twins? So they still look the way they do in canon, but they were just born at the same time. What if Goku and Raditz were twins? Our story begins on planet Vegeta, a month before its destruction and right after the initial call for the Saiyans to return. Bardock is back home, and his suspicions about Frieza's plans are the same as they were in canon, except this time he's looking to save not only one son, but two. Infant Saiyans can easily share one Saiyan pod, so Goku and Raditz are put in one ship and sent off to the planet called Earth. Notably, Raditz has a higher power level than Goku, but we don't know by how much and what that power level would be as an infant. Actually, while they're headed to Earth, this is a good time to talk about Raditz's power. The difficult thing about Raditz, as I've said many times on my What If live streams, is he's an expositional character. He exists to give us information on the Saiyans and push the story forward, but he's not much of a character in it of himself. So there's only so much information available about him, and this includes his power. The main things we know about Raditz are that he's at least 5 years older than Goku in canon, his adult power level settled at 1500, and he doesn't train since Saiyans don't believe in training and think your genetics determine your adult power level, which is the central thematic conflict of the Saiyan saga. The only other assumption we can make is that even as a child, Raditz was considered gifted enough to be on a team with Prince Vegeta, the Saiyan with the highest latent potential aside from Broly. Finally, while not referring to Raditz specifically, we do know that Vegeta was only a child when he surpassed his father's power. That doesn't mean too much since we don't know King Vegeta's power level, but King Vegeta was the only other super elite according to Toriyama, and in that same interview, Bardock from the now non-canon TV special at a power level of 10,000 still wasn't enough to cross the gap, which makes sense considering Bardock at 10,000 was stated to still be weaker than King Vegeta. What's important about all of this? Well, we can lowball King Vegeta to a power level of 11,000, and thus lowball Kid Vegeta to a power level of 12,000, which means Raditz as a child should reach 2/3 of his adult untrained power level. So with all of that, Kid Raditz at the beginning of original Dragon Ball should be around a power level of 1000. I know that is higher than infant Broly, but even if you think that number is too big for Raditz as a child, much older than Broly was, consider the fact that he'd have over a decade of training with Goku on Mount Paozu, and I think 1000 becomes a much more fair estimation here. Speaking of, Raditz would have an understanding that training at least has some value as Grandpa Gohan teaches his adoptive children martial arts. The benefit of training is the effects it has on your partner, especially when they are weaker than you. While I could cite Gohan training with Goku in the Time Chamber or training with Piccolo as an example of a character closing the gap, I think most of us agree that Gohan just blatantly has more potential than either of those two, so a more impressive example is actually Piccolo and Goku training together. You see, Piccolo, Goku, and Gohan all trained together for 3 years in preparation for the androids. Goku, after becoming a Super Saiyan and training on Yardrat, has quite a power advantage on Piccolo, but by the time of the android's arrival, Piccolo is relative to Super Saiyan Vegeta in terms of power, and Goku, after recovering from the heart virus, directly compares himself to Vegeta. This shows that Piccolo, while training with Super Saiyan Goku, as shown on the manga cover, was able to close the gap faster than Goku could grow past him. The same should be true here as well, giving Goku the same near 1000 power level as Raditz. Now, with all of that covered, Raditz and Goku are found by Bulma. Raditz should be named Goten in this story, so we'll go with that, but for the sake of easy listening, I will be referring to him as Raditz. Bulma learns that Goku has been taking care of their grandfather's Dragon Ball, though Raditz doesn't see a point in keeping it and thinks they should just give her the Dragon Ball if she really wants it. Goku disagrees and says she can only have it if he comes with her to take it back when she's done with it, and she agrees. From here, even though Goku is at a power level of around 1000, the journey stays practically the same, with the only difference being that he's quicker to defeat opponents and he's able to break out of Pilaf's castle with his Kamehameha before looking up at the moon and transforming into an Ozaru. Though even after escaping, he still glimpses the full moon for a second too long and turns into the mighty Great Ape form. This is Goku at his most deadly, a power level of 10,000. But luckily, his lack of control is a benefit for the others, and his tail is still a weakness. So grabbing it weakens him to a point where they can remove the tail. After this, the group parts ways, and Goku says he's going to train with Master Roshi, but first he's going to go home to get his brother. So that's exactly what Goku does. This uncorrupted version of Raditz is able to ride the Kinto-Un just fine, and they head in the direction of Roshi's island. When they arrive, he's happy to train them both if they can get him a pretty lady, and lucky for them, Krillin arrives just after they do, since it took them a little bit longer to get there than in the original. So launch is eventually brought to the island and training begins. Roshi does struggle to give them a goal to aspire towards because they have already utterly surpassed him in every way, but he tries his best to keep their training not only entertaining, but also difficult. Goku is actually the strongest at this point since he grew a bit from his journey, but Raditz is able to close the gap before the tournament begins. Usually, Roshi would supervise the manual labor they do as training, but this time he has to designate that responsibility to Turtle and Launch. These kids will become complacent if he doesn't at least attempt to provide them a challenge in the tournament. So when the tournament comes around, our fighters breeze through the preliminaries and the quarterfinals. In the semifinals, Roshi, disguised as Jackie Chun, is matched up against Raditz, and Goku is matched against Krillin. The two Saiyans are able to easily defeat their opponents, leaving each other as the only obstacle in between them and victory. The two are basically even in every single way. However, Goku has one key advantage. He doesn't have a tail. Both Goku and Raditz know about their tails being a weakness, but Goku's hasn't grown back since being removed. In the original, it grew back during a match out of necessity, but in this case, Goku doesn't need it to win that fight, and since Toriyama has already stated that's the reason it grew back, it's just gone for the time being. Raditz, on the other hand, still has a perfectly intact tail, so Goku is able to eventually maneuver himself behind Raditz, lifting him by his tail and throwing him out of the arena for the win. Though this does result in Raditz losing his tail as well, a painful but convenient turn of events considering the full moon was just starting to rise. So Goku wins his very first Tenkaichi Budokai, and even though Roshi fears Goku will lose motivation or get an inflated ego, Raditz steps back into the arena and tells Goku that he'll be even stronger next year. Goku says the same back to his brother, and the two shake on it, putting Roshi's fears to rest. The next arc is the second hunt for the Dragon Balls, also known as the Red Ribbon Army arc. Of course, Goku was the one who wanted the 4-star ball to preserve their grandfather's legacy, so he offers to bring Raditz back home if he's not going back with Roshi, but Raditz tells him that he's going along the journey this time. There's no way he's letting his brother get another lead on him, even if it's a small one. So the two boys with the power levels of over 1,000 begin to dismantle the single greatest militarized threat to civilization ever with ease in the search of their grandfather's Dragon Ball. This eventually takes them to the base of Karin's tower, where they meet Upa and Bora, but while both are strong enough to defeat Tao Pai Pai, that doesn't stop Bora from trying to handle the fight on his own, just as he did in the original, and this of course leads to his death. Goku and Raditz are quick to take down the assassin without the need of Karin's training, and Goku suggests they use the Dragon Balls to revive Upa's father. Raditz initially thinks it's a waste of time, but he does think it could be fun to fight more guys like the ones they've fought so far, so he agrees. Of course, this leads the pair to the Red Ribbon Army base. Once they arrive at the base, Raditz challenges Goku. Whoever beats up the most bad guys wins. Goku accepts, and the two take off into the base, going separate directions. Eventually, they both meet up at the commander's office and fight Commander Black. Once they defeat him, they decide neither gets the point for fighting him, and they realize they are both tied, both of them having beaten half the army each. Because of their competition, there were no survivors from the army. In the original, Goku defeated everyone in the army except the ones that ran away, and we all know how that went, don't we? Anyway, as they leave the army base, they realize they are one Dragon Ball short and meet up with the others. Bulma informs them that the radar isn't broken, so there must be something interfering with the signal. This leads to Baba's tournament, which goes pretty much unchanged up until the end. Goku and Raditz ask if they can take turns fighting the final fighter, since Goku got to fight the last two. She thinks they still stand no chance, so she allows it. After a game of rock, paper, scissors, they determine that Raditz will go first and then Goku. Raditz feels strangely nostalgic during the battle, and he's even caught off guard by the Mystery Man's Kamehameha, getting knocked out of the ring in the process. Goku steps up next, and since he's prepared for the fighting style of his opponent, he's able to win with ease. Don't forget, Goku and Raditz both have lost their tails, so there's no way for them to be exploited by the man who is clearly Grandpa Gohan. The reunion between brothers and their adoptive grandfather is extremely heartwarming. It brings a tear to the eyes of those watching and ultimately ends with Goku and Raditz looking forward to the next Tenkaichi Budokai. So Goku goes and grabs the final Dragon Ball quickly, and in the process defeats the Pilaf gang once again. They summon Shenron, revive Bora, and Goku catches the 4-star Dragon Ball to keep as a memento. This time, Raditz feels like he understands why it's worth keeping it around. This is usually where Roshi would tell Goku to wander the world in pursuit of strength, but instead, he suggests group training this time. Not only will Goku and Raditz grow, but Krillin, Yamcha, and secretly Roshi himself will get stronger as well. So that's what they do for the next 3 years. By the time the tournament rolls around, Ten Shinhan is just outclassed by everyone in the Turtle School. He actually loses to Roshi, who then lectures him similarly to how he did in the original series. Seeing the sheer power of the Turtle School has him rethinking his ways, so he decides to wait and see who wins the tournament before making a decision about his future. The battle he witnesses between Goku and Raditz is intense, and the two are practically even. It's a battle of determination. Who wants it more? Maybe Goku just got a bit overconfident after winning his first tournament and beating their grandfather, but whatever it is, he does lose to Raditz. Even. It's a battle of determining the title of strongest under the heavens and setting the stage for a potential future rematch. As the group get ready to leave, Goku asks Krillin if he can get the Dragon Ball and the Nyoibo from the tournament grounds. Krillin of course agrees, but at the arena, he meets none other than Tambourine. The moment that would mark the end of Krillin's life is here. Except, Krillin has trained for 3 years with Goku and Raditz. While not being as strong as them, he's more than enough for Tambourine. After defeating the demon, Krillin grabs Goku's belongings and runs back to the group, informing them of what happened. Roshi instantly knows that this is the work of the Demon King Piccolo. Normally, he'd be concerned, but the power they all have right now might be more than enough to handle this before it becomes an issue. Krillin says it seems like the demon that attacked him was after the Dragon Ball. Goku and Raditz say they're going after him. Roshi nods, but tells them if there's even a hint of trouble, they have to leave immediately. They agree and head off together on the Kinto-un, using the Dragon Radar to determine the location of the Demon King. When they arrive, Piccolo is of course just his old self and in no shape to handle beings with power levels over 1000. Goku and Raditz understand the threat he poses, so they quickly kill him before he can even release an egg. The Demon King and Kami are both dead, but they didn't know about Kami to begin with. All they know is for some reason, the Dragon Balls are now stone. The two return to the group and inform them of the good news. Roshi is proud of how far his students have come, and they go to have a celebratory dinner. After the meal, everyone trains together for the next 3 years. During that time, Roshi tells them they need to evolve their training style, so he sends them to Master Karin to train. So, under the guidance of a Grand Master, the group grows more powerful than ever, and Ten Shinhan is even able to catch up somewhat. Karin does tell them the reason the Dragon Balls turned to stone, the death of Kami, and how they aren't sure if his role will ever be filled again. But there's nothing any of them can do at this point. This leads to the tournament, of course. Goku, Raditz, and Krillin are basically fully grown now. Goku meets Chi-Chi again and agrees to marry her. Raditz asks Yamcha what kind of food marriage is, and he can't help but just laugh. The tournament progresses on and ends with Goku versus Raditz once again. The two are doing a great job keeping up with, clashing, and countering each other, but one final punch decides it all. Goku lands a punch on Raditz, knocking him out of the arena, but at the same time, Raditz did the same. Both are knocked out and hit the ground at the same time. The tournament ends in a draw. The two brothers are too evenly matched, and neither really needs a win to validate their strength at this point, so they agree to leave it as a tie. So then we have a 5-year time skip to the Saiyan Saga. In that time, Goku and Chi-Chi get married, Gohan is born, and Goku and Raditz train under Mr. Popo after being recommended to him by Master Karin. They even test the Room of Spirit and Time for a bit, though they can only handle a month before thinking it isn't worth it. The time skip ends with a reunion at Master Roshi's island, which is interrupted by Nothing. Raditz is the one that knew Goku went to Earth in the original because Gine told him. No Raditz means Vegeta and Nappa don't know about Earth, nor is it valuable enough to just go and conquer. That means Frieza never learns about the Dragon Balls and Namek is never destroyed. Goku and Raditz's competition during the Red Ribbon Army Saga has confirmed that Dr. Gero didn't escape the destruction of the army itself, so there are no androids or Cell to worry about either, which just leaves us with Boo. This arc plays out far more like the future timeline though, where Babidi slowly goes around the universe collecting energy for Boo over the course of 10 years. This movement gives the Supreme Kai the chance to recruit Goku and Raditz to his cause. Gohan, having known entirely a life of peace, isn't really strong enough to be of use as he's focused on becoming a scholar almost entirely. Goku and Raditz used what they learned of gravity training from the Room of Spirit and Time and asked Bulma to create a gravity room for them to get stronger in during this big period of peace. They're nowhere near canon levels of power at this point in the story, but that doesn't matter since they'll be training with Supreme Kai and the Z-Sword. Famously, Goku is the one to suggest testing the sword, so before they can go after Boo, the sword is actually broken and Elder Kai is freed. Raditz and Goku subsequently have their potentials unlocked, which allows them to perform much better in their upcoming battle. This doesn't make it an easy win though. Dabura is a mighty foe, and their years of peace have slowed down any potential gains from things like Zenkais and actual combat. So while the two Saiyans are able to save the day, it isn't without cost. Supreme Kai and Kibito doesn't make it an easy. Extension is dead as well. Yes, of course, Elder Kai is alive, but he's not linked to Beerus anymore. I don't know why people think this when the series explicitly says he's linked to Shin, the current Supreme Kai, which actually makes sense. And that's it. Without Beerus, there's no threat to Earth if it doesn't have the Super Saiyan God. Frieza never comes to Earth in the first place. Paragus and Broly stay on Vampa, and the two brothers live in peace for the rest of their days. A pretty happy ending for the people of Earth, if you ask me. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and thank you so very much for watching.